What about when your models require close coordination with your other project participants? Maybe you obviously architects are going to do an architectural structural model for many different reasons. I mean, they're always going to be generally the first one to do a design before it gets farmed out to everyone else. You've got to put your columns in there. You've got to put your slabs. Otherwise, you don't really have any drawings to deliver. How are you repurposing data and sharing that with your other project participants?
Yeah, I think coordination is an interesting thing, I think. And there's a couple of good examples, as you said, sort of on 6 and 8 Parramatta Square that we've been using to actually try and make that coordination process a bit easier along the way. We've tested an idea of this graphics versus number idea. And I think it's a really nice approach because the way that I suppose us as architects, I suppose, we really respond to graphics when it comes to interpreting numbers. And in this case, as you sort of said, we're sort of trying to interpret, say, column schedules, and here it is in Excel. So what we did is we generated an Excel file with all the column sizes in it and the column schedule. And it's quite an easy process, I suppose, at the end of just assigning, say, some conditional formatting to those Excel sheets that actually then change the color of the cells based on the size of the columns. So it's easy to get a visual feedback for that. But as you said, we're still requiring to actually build our architectural structure for our drawings or other purposes. And so then what we end up doing is then just using that information to drive back into GC and actually generate all of our columns from that schedule. So we're only sort of checking it once, and then visually we can have a look at the column sizes, and then they go straight back into the model, which is a much more efficient, I think, way that we could check the models, because looking at a 50-story tower and trying to work out if one column was 100 mil smaller than another is a difficult approach, I think, sometimes. And I think taking that one step further is then looking at adaptation of other information you're getting from other people. So, for example, here's one of the mechanical information we get is an IFC format from mechanical consultants, and it can easily be overlaid on our ceiling plans, which is relatively easy to do in OpenBuildings. But the main area that we're sort of focused on is that swirl diffuser location. So if you zoom in, so we're really just interested in those swirl diffusers where they interact with our ceiling plane. And what we found, when you actually look at the model, it becomes a reasonably simple process, I think, to actually look at those things. And for us, it was nice because they were actually on a different level, which is fantastic. But then what we could do is we could go through and try to export the center point of each of those swirl diffusers to then export them out to Excel. So it's just a matter of taking a bit of code, I suppose, and then looking at some really thin range boxes to pull out that bottom surface of all of those, because they turned out to be meshes out of the IFC. So pull out those bottom surfaces of all the swirl diffusers and find the centroid of each of those and export it out to Excel. And then it was a fairly simple process after that for us to then put it back into our model. And then what we did is, while we're processing the ceiling model for this, because in this project it was sort of unique because we're actually fully modeling every ceiling panel, is then when we're placing the ceiling panels back in, take that data and just say, this one's going to be a short ceiling panel because it's got a swirl diffuser in it. And then it's quite a simple process after that to then come along and overlay that IFC from mechanical consultant and do a clash detection. So it becomes a very easy way of actually using the data, I suppose, to visually check that they're in the location that we want for our design, but then also do the coordination with the IFC files along the way. So it's small steps towards coordination, but I think we're making some good progress on there as well.
I think the way that you've used IFC files there and to drive your ceiling panels is really cool. The fact that you haven't had to turn it into DGN data is great.
If you found this video helpful, please give it a like. If you want to see more such series, consider subscribing to our channel. Thank you, and see you next time.